All right, folks. Today we're going to be talking about ions. I believe that we talked about ions before we went on break, so this is going to be a little bit of review. We're also going to be doing some new things with ions that we didn't do before break, specifically with their electronic structure. Um, so, First off, to talk about what an ion is, we first have to understand what a neutral atom is. Um, so, Recall that a neutral atom is an atom with the same number of protons and electrons. Um, Remember that protons have a positive charge and electrons have a negative charge. So if you have the same number of protons and electrons, those positive charges will cancel out with the negative charges. And you'll end up with an atom with a charge of 0. And we say that that atom is neutral. Okay, so an ion is going to be just the opposite. That's going to be an atom with a different number of protons and electrons. So if you have more protons and electrons, you'll have a positive charge, and if you have more electrons, you'll have a negative charge. Um, and so that's what we'll go over down here. Positive ion is just an atom with more protons than electrons. And so then a negative ion is just going to be the opposite. It's going to be an atom with less protons than electrons, or an atom with more electrons than protons, if you prefer. Okay, and so atoms are more stable when their orbitals are either completely full or completely empty. And what I mean by that is they're either completely full with electrons or they don't have any electrons in them. So let's just kind of take a look at what that looks like. A completely a completely empty orbital would look like this. Right, we can see that there's no electrons in this orbital. Compare that to a full orbital over here, would sort of look like this. And we can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 electrons in this completely full orbital. So we can tell by how many electrons that are in there that this would have to either be a second orbital or a third orbital for an atom. Right, because the first orbital could only hold 2 electrons. So for the first orbital, a completely full orbital would look a little bit different. It would only have 2 electrons in it. But for a second orbital, we can see that it can have, or that it would have 8. Okay, so let's go through an example of what you're going to do with this. So here we're doing the example of lithium 6. So we've got the lithium 6 atom on this side, and it has 3 protons, 1, 2, 3. It's got 3 neutrons, 1, 2, 3, and it has 3 electrons, 1, 2, 3. And we can see that it has 1 valence electron because in the outermost orbital, so this outer ring, there's only 1 electron in there. Remember that the first orbital can hold 2 electrons, and the second and third orbitals can each hold 8 electrons. Okay, so then when we start filling out this information for the lithium-6 ion, the first thing that you have to know is that the lithium-6 ion is going to have the exact same number of protons and neutrons. It's because lithium is atomic number 3, and then since it has a mass of 6, it would need to be 3 electrons because 3 plus 3 gets us up to 6. Okay, and so then the next thing we're going to do is draw the lithium-6 ion over here. Now, remember that atoms like to have either completely full or completely empty orbitals. So the lithium-6 ion, well, we can see that the first orbital is completely full. The lithium-6 ion, we're just going to get rid of this electron. So the lithium, it just ditches that electron. And when that happens, we can see that the outer orbital is now empty. That second orbital is empty. And so, because it loses an electron, it goes from having 3 to 2, right? 1, 2. What's the charge of this atom? Well, to figure out the charge, remember that that's just the number of protons minus the number of electrons. This atom has 3 protons. It has 2 electrons. So we're going to do 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2 equals 1, so that means it has a charge of 1. Okay? And then the last question asks, is this a neutral atom, a positive ion, or a negative ion? Well, I would say that this has to be a positive ion because it has a charge of positive 1. right? If it had a negative charge, it would be a negative ion, and if the charge was 0, it would be a neutral atom. Okay, so let's go over another example. In this example, we're taking a look at an oxygen-16 atom. Oxygen-16 atom has 8 protons because oxygen has atomic number 8. It has 8 neutrons because 8 plus 8 gets us to 16. And we can count that out in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 protons. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 neutrons. And then for electrons, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we can see that this atom also has 6 valence electrons, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 valence electrons. 6 electrons in that outermost shell. Now, the oxygen-16 ion is going to be a little bit different than the lithium ion. We start off with 8 protons and 8 neutrons, right? Those stay the same. But when we draw this out, unlike the lithium atoms, we're not going to just start taking away electrons from the outer shell. And the reason for that is because we'd have to take away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 electrons. For the oxygen ion, it's much easier to have a full shell than it is to have an empty shell. And what I mean by that is it's much easier for it to gain 1, 2 electrons than it is for it to try to lose those 6 electrons that were there originally. And that's because 2 is less than 6, so it's easier for the ion to gain 2 electrons than it is for it to lose 6 electrons. And so we say that our final count for electrons is going to be at 10. 2 in that inner shell, that one didn't change. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 electrons in that outer orbital. What's the charge of this atom? Well, your charge is just your number of protons minus your number of electrons. So I think for this one, that's going to be 8 minus 10. 8 minus 10 is equal to negative 2. And so because this is a negative charge, this is going to be a negative ion. Okay, one final example to go through. That is going to be this neon-22 atom. Neon-22 has 10 protons because neon is atomic number 10. It has 12 neutrons. That's because 10 plus 12 gets us up to 22. And then it will have 10 total electrons because the number of protons and electrons need to be the same. So if we count this out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 protons. And then if we count number of neutrons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're good on our number of neutrons, and then there should be 10 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 electrons, and we can see that it has 8 valence electrons as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I think I skipped ahead a couple slides here. Okay, the neon-22 ion, it'll have the same number of protons and neutrons. Okay, so now if we're going to draw the picture for this atom, we need to ask ourselves, how is that outer shell doing? Is it full? Is it empty? Is it somewhere in between? And in this case, if we look at our outer shell, it should be full on electrons because we count that there's 8. So since it's already full, the picture isn't going to change and the number of electrons isn't going to change. We can calculate our charge again. That's number of protons, 10. Number of electrons, 10. 10 minus 10 is going to get us to a charge of 0. So in this case, what we're looking at is a neutral atom. And then, because it's a neutral atom, what we really need to do is change our labeling up here. This is not a neon-22 ion. This is a neon-22 atom. And again, the reason for that is because it doesn't have a charge. Its charge is 0. That makes it neutral. Okay, and so then what you're going to do is work through 3 examples, or 3 problems, just like the 3 examples that we just did. In these 3 problems, you're going to determine how many electrons the atom will gain or lose. You're going to redraw the atom as an ion. You're going to determine the charge of the ion. Then you'll state whether the new atom is a neutral atom, a positive ion, or a negative ion. Okay, and so the three examples you're going to do are phosphorus 31, argon 40, and beryllium 9. As always, let me know if you have any questions. I can help you work through this.